Tomboy, written by Suzana Thompson, narrated by Sarah Sampino. Chapter 10. Jake and I had gone to sleep with our backs turned to each other, but I woke the next morning with his body warm against my back and his arm draped over my waist. I didn't know if he was awake yet, but a certain part of his anatomy sure was. With our bodies pressed so close together, I could definitely feel it. Then I realized that the stupid buttons on my pajama top had popped open again. Only the bottom two buttons were holding it together, and my breasts were spilling out of it. I had meant to buy new pajamas when I went shopping, but I had forgotten about it in my annoyance at having to try on so many jeans. I made a move to button my top, but Jake's hand lifted from my waist and covered my hand to stop me. There was no doubt now that he was awake. Heat spread through my body in anticipation of his touch as I dropped my hand to give him access. "I just want to look at you," he whispered in my ear, sending my temperature soaring even more. After a couple of minutes, he pulled away from me and shifted his body to get off the bed. He grabbed his jeans off the floor and sat back down on the bed to put them on. We couldn't really talk for fear of waking Mom, so Jake turned to take another lingering look at me before he eased the door open to step out into the hallway. He shut it quietly behind him, and I sat up and swung my legs over the side of the bed. I unbuttoned the other two buttons on my pajama top and took off my pajamas. I got dressed and peeked out into the hallway. The door to the bathroom was open, so Jake must have gone downstairs. Connor's bedroom door was closed, and he was probably still sleeping. After I was done in the bathroom, I went downstairs and found Jake in the kitchen. We could speak in hushed voices down here. He asked me if I wanted him to make me something for breakfast. "I'll just throw some waffles in the toaster," I said. "Do you want some too?" "No thanks. I'm not hungry." He took the waffles out of the freezer and popped them in the toaster for me. "Hangover?" I asked. "No, I didn't drink that much." He took a plate out of the cabinet for me. "I drank enough not to be okay to drive, though. Thanks for stopping me." I grabbed the butter and syrup out of the fridge. "Yeah, I couldn't let you take a chance like that." "I'm sorry about the way I acted last night, Cam. I had no right to say that to you." I had been about to sit down, but now I stood looking at the kitchen table. "Why not? If that's how you feel." He set 2 glasses on the counter and turned to look at me. "I was being an idiot. That's not really how I feel." The waffles popped up from the toaster, and he picked up the plate and walked over to it. "So, you don't love me?" He froze in the process of reaching for the waffles. "What?" His back was still turned to me as he spoke. I walked over to look at him. "Last night you said that you loved me." He was staring at the toaster instead of looking at me. "When?" "I don't remember that." "It was right before you fell asleep. Is it true, Jake? Do you love me?" After he left my room, my mind had immediately returned to the last words he had spoken to me last night. "I was drunk," he said, as he removed the waffles from the toaster. I watched him set the plate down on the kitchen table for me. He asked me what I wanted to drink, and I chose milk with my waffles. He poured himself a glass of water and took a few gulps. "I was talking about what I said to you at the party. It's none of my business what you do with Dylan." He picked up Connor's car keys. "Where are my keys?" "They're still in my jean pocket." "You're not leaving yet, are you?" The morning had started off so great, but I was disappointed with the way things were turning out. "Yeah, I should get home. I didn't even tell my parents that I was staying over. You go ahead and eat. I'll go get the keys." "No," I said. "I'll get them. There's no way to explain it if Mom sees you with your hand in my pants." Jake laughed, and I reached out to cover his mouth. "Shh, you'll wake up Mom. Anyway, you know what I meant." At the touch of my hand, his laughter stopped. I dropped my hand, but I couldn't look away from his suddenly heated gaze. He was the one who broke eye contact. "Do you mind getting the keys, Cam?" With deepening disappointment, I left him standing in the kitchen and went upstairs to get his keys. He was worried about my breakfast getting cold, and he wanted to move Connor's car by himself, but I insisted on helping him. I pulled back into the driveway after he backed his car out and took off down the street. Feeling unusually lonely, I ate my breakfast by myself as I stared at Jake's glass on the countertop. He had seemed intent on keeping me company until I had mentioned what he said to me last night. He hadn't even remembered saying it, but he had been upset by it. His entire demeanor had changed when I questioned him about it. I didn't understand his reaction, but I understood my own even less. Last night, I had been inexplicably happy to hear him tell me that, and now I felt let down at hearing him say that it wasn't true. Did I want him to be in love with me? If I was honest with myself, I had to admit that the thought appealed to me. The question now was, why? Connor walked into the kitchen and interrupted my thought. We said good morning to each other, and I toasted some waffles for him. I soon noticed that the atmosphere between us was wrong, too. He seemed to be avoiding looking directly at me. I waited until he had finished breakfast. "What's going on with you?" "Not here." He stood up and motioned for me to follow him. Then he stopped at the bottom of the stairs and listened. He was obviously trying to hear if Mom was up yet, seemingly satisfied that she wasn't. He led me toward the basement and down the steps. I rarely ventured down here anymore, but I had often spied on Connor and Jake when we were kids. Connor went through a no girls allowed phase, and I had delighted in annoying him. I looked toward the bar, and I was reminded of something that happened when we were 12. My parents had never kept liquor down here, but they hadn't bothered to remove the bar the previous owner had left behind. On this particular day, it was my hiding place for the prank I was about to pull on Connor and Jake. I laid in wait with several water balloons. Sure, I would get in trouble for throwing them in the house, but it would be worth it to piss off Connor. Jake was just an innocent bystander, but it was his fault for not having better taste in friends. Besides, he never held a grudge against me. Connor would get mad, but Jake would laugh about it. I heard them coming down the steps and prepared to launch my attack, but I got distracted by their conversation. "You're lying," Jake said. "No, I swear it's true. I kissed Stephanie," Connor insisted. "On the lips?" Jake asked skeptically. "Of course on the lips. It was... Words seemed to fail Connor. "It was good," he finally finished. "You gotta try it." "With Stephanie?" Jake teased. "No, get your own girl. Maybe Nicole or somebody. Who do you think is pretty?" Connor asked. "Cam," Jake said. "Ham? You mean my sister?" Connor's voice was equal parts shock and horror. "Yeah," Jake confirmed. "She's the prettiest girl." "Cam?" Connor laughed. "She doesn't even look like a girl. The prettiest girl is Ashley." "Ashley has the prettiest hair," Jake said. "Yeah," Connor agreed. "The prettiest girls are blonde. No, not the color. I just like how long it is. There's just something about long hair." My own hair was boyishly short. I had never before thought about how it looked. My only concern had been with keeping it out of my face while I played sports. It had been strange to hear Jake say that I was pretty. I stayed behind that bar until Jake and Connor decided to go outside. My legs fell asleep from sitting on the floor for so long, and I seriously had to go pee. I waited until Jake went home before I let loose on Connor with the water balloons. As the weeks went by, Mom was surprised when she noticed that I was growing out my hair. I was stunned by the realization that I had grown my hair long because Jake had said that he liked long hair. Why had I cared about what he liked? "Don't look so shocked, Cam. Did you really think I wouldn't figure it out when I saw that his car was here?" Connor asked now. "What?" I had been lost in my memories and missed what he had been talking about. "He had to sleep somewhere, and the only place I didn't check was your room." Connor was obviously upset about that. "So what?" I challenged. "So what? You told me that you're not having sex with him." His voice was hushed, but angry. "I'm not," I said. "Come on, Cam. Do you expect me to believe he spent all night in your bed and nothing happened?" I was pissed off now. "Excuse me, but how is this your business? Do I worry about what goes on in your room? Don't try to play big brother with me because we're the same age." Connor backed off a little. "It's just weird to think of my best friend hooking up with my sister." "We didn't hook up. Jake had too much to drink at the party, and I didn't want him to drive home drunk, so I brought him here to sleep it off," I explained. He still didn't look convinced. And why exactly did he have to sleep it off in your room? After what happened last time, I wasn't setting foot in your room. How did I know that you weren't planning to have your girlfriend spend the night? It all sounded reasonable when I said it, but I couldn't fool myself that it was the complete truth. I drove Jen home, and I was surprised when I saw Jake's car here. He hasn't wanted to come over at all since you guys went to that dance. Look, Cam, I don't really want to know the details, but did you guys make up? We're cool, I said, but I wasn't so sure.